Hello everyone, my name is Etzo Barrios and I'm the Onboarding and Reseller Training Manager here at Ricoh DTG, and today we'll be going over our 1000X webinar training. So let's start off with our technical support. The purchase of your machine does include free phone support. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. You can reach us by phone or you can email us at tech1@ricohdtg.com. So if you run into any issues, have questions, or want to schedule some training with our techs, they're always here to help. So don't feel stuck or helpless. Give us a call and we'll be glad to help you out. Additionally, we also have great resources on our website, ricohdtg.com. Ricoh is proud of its commitment to the environment. We use only safe water-based inks and treatments, no bad odors or vapors, safe for the environment and safe for children's clothes. So nothing toxic or harmful with our inks. Our white ink does have special properties. All white ink has titanium dioxide. This will cause the ink over time to separate and settle, which is why we have to remove our white cartridges daily and shake them before printing.
When you remove the cartridge, a timer will begin counting down for 50 seconds.
The cartridge will have a best used by date. It's recommended to stick to the date printed, but if you find that the ink has gone past its recommended date, make sure you shake the white ink cartridge for 3 to 4 minutes. Using ink that is past its use by date is not harmful, but whites will likely not be as bright and washability may suffer. Also, any new cartridge that is off the shelf or has been sitting in stock needs to be shaken for 50 seconds before putting inside the machine. So what happens if you don't change an empty cartridge? First, your nozzles begin to clog and stop firing. This will result in very noticeable banding in your prints. Here we have an example of a nozzle check, and as you can see, we already have missing nozzles. And as time goes by, it'll get more severe until the entire channel stops firing. If we continue to leave an empty cartridge, air can enter in the system, and air in the system is a big issue and can cause permanent damage. If a cartridge is left empty for too long, you risk clogging the head, which can be a costly replacement. This is something you want to avoid. For those of you that have worked with digital printers in the past, you know replacing a print head is not fun and is very costly. So what type of fabrics can I print on? 100% organic substrates or 100% cotton will yield the best results. You can also use other similar fibers like hemp or bamboo. Basically, a good rule of thumb is if it grows out of the earth and it can be made into a fabric, then we can print on it. Hemp and bamboo, I've even seen soybean shirts. All those are plant-based fabrics and work well with our inks. You're also able to print up to 50-50 cotton polyester blends. 50% is the maximum percentage of a synthetic you can print successfully. But keep in mind, once you start introducing polyester into the mix, the white ink will not be as vivid. The more poly you have, the less vivid the white ink will be. And not all cotton shirts are the same. The quality of the fabric will impact the vividness of the image. Lower quality fabrics will yield lower saturated color or faded colors, and a higher quality fabric will give you strong and vivid colors. Make it easy on yourself and buy a nice quality shirt. This will make the entire process easier to obtain an excellent print. Now once you're more experienced, you can start using other brands and make them work for you. For the best results, we recommend using a ring spun cotton t-shirt. A ring spun shirt will have a cleaner fiber, which will result in a cleaner, smoother print. They come in lighter or heavyweight shirts, and the fabrics are nice and soft. So it's a nice premium shirt. Most customers are happy with the feel and the fit. On top of that, you can see a difference in print quality. Here in my example on the bottom, you can see on the left, the letters are printed and you can read them, but they're not as crisp and as clean as on a ring spun t-shirt. And all the major brands will have a ring spun premium version in their line of tees. Gildan has Hanes will have one. You'll just have to look into it and find that ring spun version. With that being said, it doesn't mean you can't use comb cotton t-shirts. Comb cotton tees will wash fine, they will print fine, And it's really, in the end, it's based on the customer and their budget. Next is our environment. Now, while the environment may seem like it's not something that may be important, it's actually quite the opposite when you're dealing with digital printers. All digital printers have some sort of environment requirement. Ours are pretty basic to keep up with, but can cause problems in the future if it's not properly maintained. First, it's our temperature. We want to keep it from 50 to 90 degrees. I usually say if you're uncomfortable working in a very cold temperature or in a very hot temperature, then it's more than likely the printer is also feeling the same way. Now for our humidity, this is a big one when it comes to digital printers. Since our print head is moving over open air while it's printing, having a humid environment will help maintain the print head open while it's printing. The machine itself has a hygrometer and a thermometer to measure the environment, and will let you know if the humidity is too low or too high. On your actual screen, you'll see a percentage of humidity and your temperature. Now, if you find that the humidity is low in your area, it may be necessary to purchase a humidifier to increase your humidity level. We suggest using a non-misting or non-condensing humidifier. You don't really want one that sprays actual water into the air. You definitely don't want that type of humidifier around your machine. We also want clean air, no excessive dust or airflow around the printer, so keep fans, AC units away from the machine. And if the environment is not ideal for the printer will actually detect it and it will start to give you warnings. We will be setting our temperature to 330 degrees. Our press time will be 90 seconds. Your pressure should be set from a medium to a medium high pressure, or about 40 to 50 psi. As far as the location of the heat press, just make sure we don't have it too close to the machine. We don't want any of that heat reaching inside the printer. Now, a quick note, most heat presses will use anywhere from 15 to 18 amps of power. Normal household breakers are about 20 amps. So I normally recommend to have your press hooked up directly to the wall outlet and on its own breaker. And finally, these heat press settings will actually work for both dark and light garments. Once you start pressing shirts, you're going to want to start using your heat press sheets. This is to protect both the shirt and the heat platen. Below are a couple of options that we can use. First is parchment paper. This paper is thin and very similar to the cooking paper you may have used to bake cookies at home. These sheets last about 2 to 3 presses until a new one is needed. They work well, but don't last very long. Our next one is our Stahl's craft sheet, and this one's my favorite, and this is the one that I do recommend. These sheets are a bit thicker and will last anywhere from 50 to 60 presses. You can find these on our website, and you can also find these on the Stahl's website. It's a shine across your print, but for me personally, I don't like the look, and I found most customers sheet these generally last actually a very long time. Teflon sheets will trap moisture during the ink curing process. What this gives you in return is a shine across your print, but for me personally, I don't like the look, and I found most customers prefer the finish that the Stahl's craft sheets or the parchment paper give. So our pre-treatment step is very important and is a key step in the process. Pre-treatment is a primer/bonding agent that is necessary when using white ink and is optional for white t-shirts. So essentially it's our glue for our ink. Proper pre-treatment is an important step in order to get a strong white layer. This is what we want. We want strong white layers, which in return will give us strong vivid colors on top. For the required tools, we have two options. For manual application, we recommend using the Wagner high volume low pressure sprayer. This sprayer is by far the best handheld sprayer you can get. I've tried other similar brands, but the Wagner is absolutely the best one to use for pre-treatment. Now, if it's in your budget, a good alternative is a pre-treat machine. Pre-treat machines can lay down the perfect amount, keeps the process clean, saves you money by not overspraying. Now these do come at a cost. They range anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000. But in a higher production scenario, manual pre-treating doesn't make sense. Also, it keeps the process clean and contained, so if you're in an area where you cannot pre-treat in an open space or an outdoor area, these work great for small offices, home offices as well. When pre-treat machines are properly maintained, the pre-treat process will be more consistent. The machine is not operator dependent, which means anybody can easily learn how to use a pre-treat machine with very little training. These machines are great when you have multiple employees doing pre-treatment. A pre-treatment machine can help eliminate wasted pre-treatment and keep consistent spray patterns no matter who is using the machine. Now for manual pre-treatment, it's recommended to there's a lot of gust going on. And if you're spraying inside, make sure you don't have fans. Or ACs blowing near your pre-treat area. And lastly, once pre-treat dries on tables or walls, it becomes sticky and tacky. So this means regular cleanup is required. Basically, the area you're going to be pre-treating will get a little messy. So just keep that in mind. So before we start pre-treating, there's a couple things we need to check. First, I like to set up my nozzle horizontally, just like in this image. This will allow me to spray left to right or right to left. Now let's look at our trigger. Our trigger will have a flow knob. Make sure you have a space like mine. As you can see on the trigger itself, you can see a minus and a plus symbol. We don't want it to be flowing too much. This will cause us to overspray the t-shirt. Turn it a couple times towards the minus symbol until it looks like where mine is at. Next, when you start to spray, make sure you pull the trigger all the way back. If you pull the trigger just a little bit, the fan will turn on, but nothing will spray. This is a very common mistake that a lot of beginners make. They hear the loud noise, the loud fan turn on, they start to swing their arms around, and half of it isn't actually sprayed. So once you start to spray, make sure you pull that trigger all the way back. Next, I do recommend spraying on a flat table. This also allows me to stack 5 to 6 shirts at a time. When we begin to spray, make sure the gun is pointing straight down. If we have it at an angle, we risk having an uneven spray pattern. I'll also keep my gun about 12 to 15 inches away from the shirt. Just keep in mind, the closer the gun is to the shirt, the faster the fabric will saturate. I'll also be spraying in rows from right to left. As I move down to the next row, I'll slightly be overlapping that first row to avoid any missing areas between. So let's begin spraying. Again, I'm pointing the gun straight down. I'm moving slowly across, creating a nice even pass. And as I go down to the next row, I'm slightly overlapping the previous pass to avoid any dry areas. Lastly, we'll grab our plastic card squeegee and we will squeegee the shirt. This step helps us push the pre-treat further into the fabric. It also helps disperse any heavy areas where we may have oversprayed. Now let's begin drying our pre-treat. First, our heat press will be set at 330 degrees and we will use a medium to medium heavy pressure. The first step is to hover. Here I'll hover the heat press for 15 to 30 seconds. And next we will begin by pressing the shirt 20 to 30 seconds, and I'll do this twice or until it's fully dry. So let's begin with our hover step. Here I'm using a geonite. This heat press actually comes with a hover option. So it'll actually auto lock in hover mode. So as I drop it down, it's gonna lock in. Now if your heat press doesn't have this feature, you'll have to manually hold it in place. Now while it's hovering, I have the heat plant about 1 to 2 inches away from the shirt. This step will help us prevent what we call crystallizing or burning your pre-treat, which will lead to a large noticeable pre-treat area, and this is something we want to avoid. And I generally like to hover for about 15 to 30 seconds. Next, we can begin pressing our shirt. Always use a heat press sheet. Here I'm using a Stahl's craft sheet, and I'll be pressing for 20 to 30 seconds, and I'll do this twice or until it's fully dry. Now this heat press sheet we are using for pre-treatment should only be used for pre-treatment. Over time, a layer of pre-treatment residue will build up on the sheet, and if we try to press a printed t-shirt with this, it can start to transfer this residue onto your shirt. Once you're done, the shirt is ready to be printed or stored away. Once the shirt's been pre-treated, you are able to store it away for later use. Now here's a couple things you want to avoid when you're pre-treating. First, it's going to be pretty obvious you want to avoid overspraying. Spraying too much will result in staining. The pre-treat area will also dry thick and will have a starch-like feel. You can also get crystallization, which will burn a noticeable pre-treat area on your shirt. And this burn mark may or may not wash off. Second is don't mix up your pre-treat liquids. The light pre-treatment only works for white shirts and will not work for dark shirts. And your dark pre-treatment, if you spray it on a white shirt, you could potentially cause some yellowing to happen. On the top left corner, we have the printer current status. Here you will see 4 different icons. The green check mark means it's ready. A white clock means the machine is busy. This can appear when it's doing maintenance routines. A red exclamation point means there is an error and the printer cannot print. A yellow exclamation point means there is a warning. This can be things like low cartridge, waste tank is getting full. When the printer is in this state, depending on the error, it may or may not let you print. Next, we have our temperature and humidity level. Later, I'll show you how to change this from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Next to that, we have our quick view ink levels. If you tap here or drag down, a window will open up. On the top here, you have more detailed messages regarding the status of the printer or error messages. Below that, we have our ink levels with percentages. Here is our waste bottle level. Always keep an eye on this. And below is our waste ink reset button when we empty our waste ink bottle. If you tap one more time here, it'll exit this menu. This is where your jobs will be stored in our internal storage. Any image that is sent from the computer or printed through the USB will be saved in our internal storage to print at a later time. Our USB option will be used when we print using our USB thumb drives. Here our current job will be displayed when printing starts. The stop button will be used whenever you want to cancel the print job. Here you can increase the number of copies for each print. Our set button will actually push the table in. And the eject button will move our table out. If we go under our maintenance menu, we will find our nozzle check option. It's recommended to print a nozzle check daily and before printing. It's best if you use a transparent sheet. Using a transparent sheet will allow us to see the white nozzles. Using a white sheet of paper will only work for CMYK channels, as you're not able to see white ink on a white paper. Now if we find that our nozzle check is missing lines, then we must perform auto head cleans. In our auto head cleans, you will find various options. Here you can pick which channel or channels you want to clean. In some cases, it may not be necessary to clean all the channels, so you are able to pick individual ones. Additionally, you're also able to select if you want a normal head clean or a strong head clean. Next, we have a regular maintenance. This option will be used when it's time to perform our weekly or our monthly maintenance. If you click on it, a message will appear asking you if you're sure you want to run this. When you click yes, a window will appear with a timer. This timer is the maximum time we allow to perform maintenance. The maintenance shouldn't take this long, but once this timer ends, the carriage will dock back over the maintenance station. You will also notice the carriage moves over to the center, allowing you to perform manual maintenance. Next is our alignment tab. Now when you receive the printer, it's not necessary to do any of these alignments. Before the printer ships to you, we perform all these alignments and tests so you don't have to. Now there may come a time where you do have to do these alignments. When that time does come, it's recommended that you call one of our techs and they can walk you through this whole process. Now let's go over to our printer parts tab. The printer itself will keep track of how much is being printed and how much these parts are being used. Over time, the printer will detect a certain part is reaching its end of its life. First, the part will turn yellow, indicating that it's near, and then red once it's time to replace. When this happens, call tech support so we can get you set up with the correct part and an appointment for the installation. In most cases, these parts are easy to replace and can be replaced over a video call. And finally, our settings tab. Here we have various options and adjustments we can make, and I'll go through this quickly. First is our ink path control. This option will be used when we either need to flush our machine with cleaning fluid or fill the machine with ink. Most of the time though, if you're going to be going through this process, just give us a call and we can walk you through the entire procedure. Other options, we're going to have various adjustments we can make. First one is going to be IP address. If you connect your printer to your modem or to your network, you'll be able to find the IP address here. Next is our drying time. Here you can set a dry time between the white layer and the color layer, and we'll cover this a little bit later on. Next is our obstacle sensor. Here you can turn on and off your laser. Now, I do not recommend ever turning off your laser. This can lead to the head rubbing on your shirt, crashing into areas, which can be a big issue. So let's go ahead and leave this setting as is, unless you're instructed by a technician to make an adjustment. Our factory reset will reset all our settings back to factory default. Our temperature, here is where you can switch from Celsius to Fahrenheit. High speed mode. In high speed mode, the machine will print the white layer faster, but printing in high speeds can result in seeing more ink misting. On page 2 we have white cleaning frequency. In here we can control how often the printer will perform a head clean when you're printing with white ink. Our language option is here, you can change to a different language. Store jobs has options regarding the settings for all the jobs that are being stored in your internal memory. In volume, you can control how loud the beeps are. Agitate setting has options for manual cartridge agitation. USB update will be used whenever we have to update our firmware. Time shift and schedule work together. The printer is set in UCT time, and here you can see your current UCT time, which directly correlates with the schedule list for maintenance. Schedule set has the ability to pre-schedule head cleans for work days or work weeks. Our video option has QR codes you can scan that will directly take you to our maintenance videos. White ink amount adjust. Here you have 3 options and each one will increase the amount of white ink it outputs. Now, I would recommend to make changes in your software and color gate first if you do need to output more white ink before you make this change. Under information, you will find the printer serial number and board information. For your computer requirements, we recommend you go and check the ColorGate website. Here you will find various options for computer requirements. I do recommend having the highest and most powerful computer, especially if you're going to be using this for Photoshop, internet, and printing. Additionally, we have great videos on our website that can walk you through the registration and the installation of the software and a hot folder setup. Compatible files are raster image files, a PNG file, TIFF, JPEG, GIF, or BMP are acceptable. Now the files we recommend are PNG or TIFF with a transparent background. And for white shirts you can use PNG, a TIFF, or a high resolution JPEG. Now most of you that are not familiar with graphics or graphic designs will just Google images. Now there's nothing wrong with this, but keep in mind that about 90% of the images you find on Google or Facebook or anywhere online will be low resolution. This means you run the risk of having blurry images, pixelation, or poor quality prints. Now it's not necessary to have this, but it'll be very helpful in the long run when images need to be edited. So that's why we recommend having some sort of editing software. ColorGate itself is only a ripping software, not a design software. This means any modification you need to the image will be done using a graphic design program. You have various options to choose from, but the most popular will be Adobe products like Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. Earlier I spoke about our IP address and network connection. Connecting your printer to the internet is easy and convenient. First, we'll need an Ethernet cable. Connect one of the end of the cables to the printer Ethernet port. It's located in the back by the waste tube. The other end of your cable can be connected directly to your modem or to a network outlet. Over on your printer, you're going to want to go to your settings, you want to go to options, and you want to click on IP address. First, make sure we click enable. This will activate the connection. The printer will then read out an IP address. This is the address we're going to need for our ColorGate software. In ColorGate, let's go to the top left corner. Let's click on printer. Let's go to properties. In our printer properties window, go to the printer port tab. Click here and we want it to say TCP/IP. And down below, go ahead and type in your IP address. Once you're done, press OK, and you will have to restart your software for the changes to take effect. Once we set up our IP address in ColorGate, you will now be able to send images through your network. So this means any computer that has the RIP installed and is connected to your network will be able to send a print job to the machine. When printing a white shirt, you have to decide whether you want to pre-treat it or not. Now, if you ask other DTG printers, you'll see you'll get both answers. Some will only print white shirts with pre-treat, and others will say it's not needed. This step is optional and is really going to come down to the type of quality you want to output. But here at Ricoh, we always recommend applying pre-treat to a white shirt. When you apply pre-treat to a white shirt, there's two big benefits. One, you get brighter, vivid colors. Two, the pre-treat helps with having better wash cycles. Now, before placing the shirt on our printer, we have to pre-press it. Always remember to use a heat press sheet. This step is important and it will help us in a few things. One, it helps you flatten down fibers. Two, it removes any wrinkles that may have formed while it was stored. And three, it removes moisture that may have collected. Now let's go over our table height adjustment. As you explore printing on different items, you will need to make height adjustments depending on how thick the material is. A t-shirt is much thinner than, let's say, a hoodie, so this means the table height will have to be adjusted. Level 1 will be used for nozzle checks, and level 2 and 3 will be used for t-shirts. Now below you have the adjustment knob. Moving it to the left will move the table down, and moving it to the right will move it up. Next, let's load our t-shirt. So after pressing my shirt and setting my height to 0, I begin by holding the shirt by the shoulder. Here I begin to center it in the rear. I then drop it down, pull the shirt until the collar is just below the platen. Here I'm pulling on the sides of the shirt. I do this to feel how much fabric is on each side and make adjustments if I need to. Next, make sure you tuck all the remaining fabric inside the table. You don't want any of this to get caught on the outside. Next, add your hoop, and I gently tug on the fabric all around. This creates a little bit of tension and gives you more of a flat surface on top. Once our shirt is on there, we can send our table in. Go ahead and press the set button. Now, if you send your table in and you see this message, this means something has broken our height laser and we have to make a table adjustment. So first, let's make sure that our height adjustment is set to the correct level. Next, let's bring the table out by pressing the eject button. And we want to check the surface of the plan and look for any wrinkles or areas that are not flat. Once you make those adjustments, you can press set and send the table back in. So first I'm going to talk about the hot folders. These folders will make the whole process easy and fast. If you set up your installation appointment already, our technician should have created these hot folders. These hot folders will be created on your desktop and usually have a black shirt, a white shirt, and a dark shirt folder. And once you drop an image into this folder, the RIP will automatically pick it up. It will automatically apply all the settings for, let's say, a black shirt, and all you have to do is set up your size and positioning. In fact, it's so fast I can show you real quick how this works. Here I have my hot folder, and these were set up during my installation call with the technician. All I'm going to do is drop this image into my white t-shirt folder. As soon as I drop it in, the RIP will automatically load it and apply all the settings. Once it's done, all I have to do is adjust my size and positioning. Make sure you center horizontally and vertically, and press print. So you can see how quick and easy this part is of the process if you have your hot folder set up. If you don't have your hot folder set up, we also have what we call CSEX files. These files, when loaded into RIP, will automatically load the settings we recommend. Now go through this option next. First, drag and drop your image into this area, or you can just go to the open folder here, find your image, and press open. Next, right click on your image and let's go to settings. In our settings window, press the open folder on the top left corner. If you don't have your CSEX files downloaded yet, you can find these on our website. Go to ricohdtg.com. Click on the support and downloads page. Click on your printer. I'm going to click on the 1000X model here. Click on the download link here, and you'll be able to find all your CSEX files for printing. Once you download them, click on the file you want to open, press OK again, and now all the white shirt settings have been applied to this image. Now let's just adjust our size and positioning. If you don't see the adjustment window here on the side like mine, you can go to this icon with the triangle pointing down. Press on this triangle and click on the job placement window. First, always make sure your proportional box is checked. Below we have our height and our width adjustments. Here we have options to rotate our image. Our offset X will center the image horizontally, and our Y offset will center it vertically. At this point you're ready to print, but if you find you need to make additional adjustments, here are some things to look at. Right click on your image, go to settings. On the bottom left corner you'll see another settings button. Under our color correction tab we have a couple of adjustments. The most important one is the contrast. Increasing the contrast can help by making the colors more vivid and saturated. We also have an option for brightness. If we need to, we can adjust this, but increasing this too much can wash out your colors. Once you're done, press OK, then OK again. Right click on your image and press print. Now, white t-shirts are the easiest to print. They're already white, so white ink is not necessary. The cost to produce a white t-shirt is lower than producing a dark t-shirt. The print also has a very soft and smooth feel. And as you start off printing, I recommend to practice on a couple white shirts before you move on to dark shirts. Now let's remove the shirt. First thing I do is I put my back against the printer and I pull the shirt off by its shoulders. And I do it this way because when you remove the shirt, you want the print facing you. This way, when you go over to our heat press, we can just drop it down. Now at this point, our ink is still very wet. We have to do our best to avoid touching the print. If the sleeve touches the print or it brushes up against your hand, the ink will smear. Always use a heat press sheet, don't forget that. Our press should be set at 330 degrees. Our pressure should be set at a medium to a medium high. We will be pressing the shirt for 90 seconds. And once the shirt is done and ready, it's ready to be sold or worn. Successfully printing a high quality dark garment can be easy. When printing dark garments, all the steps and requirements are vital to the process. Now, printing a dark shirt can be easy or it can be difficult. And this is where every step is crucial to get a bright, vivid, dark garment. So here are a couple of things we need to consider before printing. 1. Did you shake your white inks? If your white ink is settled, if your white ink is separated, you will never get bright, vivid white layers. T-shirt quality. Make sure you have a nice cotton t-shirt, preferably, ring spun shirt. Good nozzle check. Make sure your nozzle check is firing at 100% or near 100%. If too many of those white nozzles are missing, you'll never get good coverage. Proper pre-treatment. This is a very important one. The shirt must be pre-treated right. If the shirt is lacking pre-treatment, our white ink will never be bright or solid. Color gauge settings. This part is easy. We, for the most part, have set you guys up with the proper settings that will give you good prints. So make sure you download those CSEX files or make sure you call our tech line and we can set you up with those hot folders. Now, if you checked off all the things above, then we're ready to print. First, of course, it's going to be our pre-press. Always pre-press your shirt before printing, especially if they're dark shirts. Again, this will help us out with a few things. It will help us by flattening down our fibers and giving us a smooth printing surface. It will remove moisture from the t-shirt. Our heat press should be set at 330 degrees. We're going to be pressing for 10 to 20 seconds. And our pressure should be set at a medium to a medium high. Placing a dark shirt on the plan is the exact same as a white t-shirt. And don't forget our height. Always double check it before printing. Try to make this a habit. First, try and drop your image into this area or just go to the open folder here. Find your image and press open. Next, right click on your image and go to settings. In our settings window, press the open folder on the top left corner. If you don't have your CSEX files downloaded yet, you can find these on our website. Go to ricohdtg.com and click on the support and downloads page. Click on your printer. I'm going to be clicking my 1000X model here. Click on the download link here. And here you'll find all the necessary CSEX files for printing. Once you downloaded them, click on the file and press open. Press OK again. And now all the black t-shirt settings have been applied. Next, let's adjust our size and positioning. If you don't see the adjustment window like on mine, you can go to this icon on the top. It's a little triangle pointing down. Click on that. Then click on job placement window. First, always make sure your proportional box is checked. Below we have our height and our width adjustments. Here we have options to rotate our image. Our offset X will center the image horizontally, and our Y offset will center it vertically. At this point, you're ready to print, but if you find you need additional adjustments, here are some things you can look at. Right click on your image and go to Settings. On the bottom left corner, you'll see another Settings button. First, let's start off with our Print Mode tab. Under the white print mode, we have various resolutions we can adjust. If we go higher in resolution, this will increase the white output. If we lower the resolution, less white ink will be printed. Under special color, we have our brightness black substrate. This setting will be used when we are printing on black shirts. This setting will remove all the black ink from your image to avoid printing black on black. Basically, this setting should only be used if we're printing on a black t-shirt. The other option is brightness. This option will be used when we are printing on shirts that are not white or black. So you would use this option whenever you're printing on yellow shirts, green shirts, blue shirts, orange shirts, red shirts, anything besides white or black. The limit setting we generally want to keep at 100. Unless we see the white layer being flooded, we can use the limit setting to start lowering the white layer. Our intensity level will default at 98. Lowering the intensity level will start to decrease the amount of white ink. The way this works is it will look at your colors on top, and in the darker tones, it will start to reduce more white ink than on the brighter areas. We recommend to keep this between 85 to 95, which will give you strong white layer. Here's a printed sample. On the right, we have the intensity level at 60. Lowering the intensity level this low reduced the white too much, and now our reds will become dull and muted. The minimum setting will increase the white output all around. Increasing the value will increase the white above the normal minimum where it's normally supposed to be low. This setting is very image dependent, but if you wish to further increase your white layer, a good place to start is around 20 to 30. Our next setting is our choke value. The choke value will decrease the size of the white layer. This is necessary because when white ink starts to dry, it will actually expand and can result in a white line being seen around your image. The value refers to pixels being removed around your image. Using a positive value will increase the opposite effect. Our recommended setting is between -3 and -4. Below that, we have our highlight feature. This feature will print a second layer of white ink over the visible areas. For example, in my snake, the only white areas are my white letters at the bottom. If we use our highlight feature, it will print a second pass over those letters. To turn on a highlight feature, switch the option to filling. The intensity level is the amount of white ink it will print during the highlight pass. A good number to start off is 30, but you can increase the value if necessary. The tolerance refers to what the software considers a white area. In most cases, you only want a highlight print over true white areas. A good tolerance level is 10. Increasing the value higher can start to print white over your softer or lighter tones and can potentially completely wash them out. Under our color correction tab, we have a couple of adjustments. The most important one is the contrast. Increasing the contrast can help by making the colors more vivid and saturated. We also have an option for brightness. If we need to, we can adjust this, but increasing this too much can wash out your colors. Once you're done, press OK, then OK again. Right click on your image and press print. Now at this point, our ink is still very wet. We have to do our best to avoid touching the print. If the sleeve touches a print or it brushes up against your hand, the ink will smear. Always use a heat press sheet, don't forget that. Our press should be set at 330 degrees. Our pressure should be set at a medium to a medium high. We will be pressing the shirt for 90 seconds. And once the shirt is done and ready, it's ready to be sold or worn. In some cases, it may be necessary to set a dry time between layers. Adding a dry time between the print layer will allow the white layer to dry, and this will prevent the color layer from mixing with the white. Here I set my whiting settings too high, and this resulted in various areas in my print where the ink is so excessive it creates small like puddles of ink. This will take some time to dry enough to print over. Now you should never do this, but I'm going to touch the print just to show you how wet this ink still is. Here you can see the result of what happens when your ink is still very wet. As you can see in my yellow areas, the white ink has mixed with the yellow. Here as well you can see the white spots on the red letters due to the white being too wet. To set a dry time, go to our settings menu. Next we're going to select options, and here you will find our dry time setting. The top setting will be used when we print on t-shirts. The setting below will be used whenever we're printing DTF films. Select the time and you can type in your own dry time. Now the last thing is maintenance. Now if you went through our onboarding website, you should have already seen these videos. But if you haven't, please make sure you go back and you watch all these videos. Our daily, our normal maintenance, and our monthly maintenance are very easy, and this stuff only takes you about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. This is the best way to protect your investment. Doing a little bit of maintenance on the machine and making sure it's being used will go a long way in securing your machine will last as long as possible.